So let me introduce myself quickly. I myself Girish. I have around 3+ years of experience in data processing and consulting. My major experience is in data engineering and data transformation. I worked extensively on SQL and Python for data processing on Hadoop and PySpark platform. Currently, I'm supporting to Cisco project and part of DS team. So today our topic is async IO. So, so in this async IO, we are going to cover these are all things actually. So there are some prerequisites for this async IO, and then we are going to see the difference between synchronous and asynchronous, and then what is async IO and event loops. This is a main part of async IO. We are going to see about this event loops, and then what is the difference between asynchronous generators and generators. Then we are going to see coroutines, what is coroutines and how we are utilizing these coroutines in asynchronous process, and then a small demo. So these are the things we are going to cover today. So let's start with the first one. So that is prerequisites. Before going into the prerequisites, so we need to know why we need this asynchronous process. So where we are using this asynchronous process, we are using this asynchronous process when we are doing multiprocessing, and if you are doing any fire and forget process on independent data and blocking calls, in the sense when you are working with IO devices or network related things, there may be some block time because they will respond very slowly. So we call them as blocking calls actually. So I know most of you people know about this multiprocessing and multi-threading, but please bear with me for some time because we need to know. I'll quickly go through these two things actually. We need to know about what is multiprocess and multi-threading. I'll quickly iterate on these things actually. So what is a multiprocessing here? So multiprocessing is a most obvious way to use multiple processes. Multiple processes are run across multiple CPU cores which does not share the CPU resources among them. And each process can have many threads. If you see the diagram here, so this is a quad core processor. So what it is doing is it has allocated one process under one core. So it is not sharing the no shared resources in the sense here it is a memory. It is not sharing the memory. So each process is having separate memory for their processes. So this is how multiprocessing will work internally. And then if you go to the multi-threading, this is a technique actually. Multi-threads are spawned by a process to to do different tasks at the same time, just one after the another. So if you see the diagram here, this diagram may give you the illusion that the threads are running in parallel, but actually they are run in concurrent manner. So what is happening, if you see the diagram, so under each core we are running different threads here, and each thread is doing different processes. Multi-threading library is a lightweight, shares memory, responsible for responsive UI, and is used for it is used well for IO bound applications. So multi-threads live in the same process in the same space. Each thread will do a specific task, no, having its own code, own stack memory, instruction pointer, and sharing heap memory, all those things. But there are some disadvantages in multi-threading. If thread is having a memory leak, it can damage the other threads as well. So like this, we have some disadvantages in multi-threading. So to achieve this all disadvantage and to improve multiple process performance, we are using actually asynchronous process. So these multi-processing and multi-threading we are using in synchronous process and asynchronous process. But let's see what is a synchronous and asynchronous before going into the asynchronous process. So if you see the synchronous process, uh, the synchronous or synchronized means connected or dependent in some way. I'll give one example for this synchronous process. You are in a queue to get a movie ticket. You cannot get one until everybody in front of you gets one. And the same applies to the people queued behind you. So this way, a synchronous process will work. So you have to go in a series. So no, you can't jump the series, and you cannot start the other process. So this way, this synchronous process will work. If you see the diagram here, there are four processes are running, T0, T1, T2, and T3. If you are calling those routines here, T0 will run and then finish, T1 will run and then finish, T2 will run and then finish. So once the process is in a pending state, let's say here T1 is in process, and no, you cannot start with the T2. You have to wait for a T1 to finish that process. So this way synchronous process will work. So if you go with the asynchronous process, what it is doing? So when you execute something asynchronously, you can move on to the other task before it finishes. I'll give one more live example for this. You are in a restaurant with many other people. You ordered your food. Other people can also order their food. They do not have to wait for your food to be cooked and served to you before they can order. In the kitchen restaurant, workers are continuously working, serving, and taking orders. People will get their foods served as soon as it is cooked. So the same way, asynchronous process will work. So asynchronous process, on the other hand, do not have their start and end points synchronized. If you see the image here, T1 is starting to do some process with IO and left there, then it is executing another job, but still the left job is continuing in the kernel mode. Once the IO process ends, then it will give you it gives the signal back. Say, hey, your process is done. Your result is ready. You come and take your results back. This is how asynchronous process will work. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. If you have any questions, you can raise your questions. Okay, so I am assuming that you are clear till here. Okay, let's start with the next slide. So next slide is async IO. So what is async IO? So it is a library built into Python. It is used to write a concurrent code using async and await syntax. So async and await are our keywords. So let's just stop for a 1 minute here, and let's talk about a concurrent, what it means. Now you may think concurrent means at the same time asking for items or work items that could potentially run in parallel but may not necessarily run in parallel. So it is a way of organizing your code. Okay, so it is a library used to run the code that could potentially run in parallel using this async and await syntax. Async IO is often perfect fit for IO bound high level structured network code. So there is another keyword here, IO bound. What does that mean? It means if you have an application where the performance of your application is dependent or mostly dependent on IO. If you have an application which is very slow because of IO operations, then async IO can help you with that and make your application run a lot faster. So what can we do when something makes our program slow down? If you are working with lots of things, instead of just running your code in one process, you can run it in two processes, three processes, and more processes, just like multiprocessing. But these processes usually run on cores on your CPU. So if you have an 8-core CPU, and if you have let's say 8 processes, then you could run one process on each CPU. And that case, everything would be running at the same time in parallel, like I mentioned. If your app is IO bound, if you are doing a lot of IO processing, then instead of using multiprocessing, what you can do is, instead of using multiprocessing, you can use async IO here. Async IO does this. It is no does the same thing. It is only one process and one thread within one process. It is effectively doing just one thing at a time. So here, so just like multiprocessing, async IO will do, but there is a difference actually. So it will run a single threaded multiprocessing with no it will use cooperative multitasking. Here we'll see about what is cooperative multitasking later. For now, we'll talk about what is the keywords, what is async and what is await. We'll see later. I'm going to show you the live demonstration how we can actually use this async and await later. Okay, then there we can discuss this everything. So here we'll discuss about the async keyword. So it is just used to declare a function as a coroutine. We'll talk about the coroutine also later. It can be applied to the function by putting it it at the front of definition. So just like the async keyword, the same applies to await also, but we will use await to call the async function. We use this keyword actually. And if you use this asynchronous process, there are some advantages. So it leads to the it leads to more straightforward code than managing multiple threads and protecting some data structures from current process, etc. Um, the only one thread and no primitive multitasking. So here, primitive multitasking in the sense, whenever you are doing multi-thread process, multi-threads will run in OS threads. So it will handle it will hand over the process to the OS actually. So OS will run in threads actually. Whenever that is having any blocking code, you will be in a block mode actually. But if you use this asynchronous process, we are not handovering our no managing process to the OS. We are running this everything with the help of coroutines. Coroutine will handle the process actually. So what actually coroutine will do, we'll see later. There is a separate topic for that. And then threads won't scale as well. No, like if you need to wait for many things at the same time, async IO async IO also might be slow for some times, but that is the only way to run your task tasks very well. And if you see the memory also, the memory management is also very efficient in asynchronous process. If thread is taking 50 kilobytes of memory, but coroutine will take only 3 kilobytes of memory. And then the next topic is event loop. We will no we are using this asynchronous process with the help of event loop. So event loop will manage all coroutines actually. So here, event loop is a main driver code that manages the cooperative multitasking. So I already told you what is multitasking and what is cooperative multitasking. Multitasking in the sense, uh, you will hand over your all process to the OS, but here we are not handovering to the OS. We are no handling all the process with the help of coroutines. So these coroutines will run inside the event loop only. We cannot run the coroutine no without event loop. So what it will do is it will register and execute and cancel all the calls, and then it will launch the sub processes. It will communicate with no external programs as well. By default, async IO event loop runs in a single threaded and on a single CPU core, and these event loops are pluggable. So what is this event loop and how it is working? So if you see the diagram here, no, this diagram I have actually created based on my demo. So what I am doing is I am doing some API calls to two websites here. So so if you see the diagram here, I am requesting and two websites. So those requests are coming into the event loop, and it is going to send them out to external world. External world in the sense here, it may be a file system, it may be a database, whatever you targeted. So here I'm sending my request to the web and reading some content from the site, and I'm sending a continuous read requests to two sites here. One may give response quickly and other may not. So if you go with the synchronous process, you have to wait until your results come back. But in the asynchronous process, I don't need to wait for result come back. So these requests potentially are going in a parallel to web server, and then those responses will come back for sure. If all responses are in wait state, are taking some time, what event loop will do, like event loop will go for the next task if you have any. Once the response come back, then event loop will submit the response back to what call the callback. So I'll show you the chart here actually, so that you can understand what event loop is doing and how it is working. I hope it is clear. Can anyone answer? Is this visible?
Visible.
Thank you. So here, what it is doing is the event loop is running in a thread. It gets tasks from the queue. Each task calls next step of coroutine. So as I said, event loop will run coroutines. Okay, coroutines will run inside event loop only. So what it is doing is it is calling the coroutines here. If coroutine calls another coroutine, so here it is calling the coroutine. If it is calling another coroutine, a coroutine no like current coroutine gets suspended and context switch occurs here. Context of the current coroutine is saved and context of called coroutine is loaded. So if coroutine come across a blocking mode, let's say if it is in sleeping mode or if it is handling IO process, if it is come across those all things, the current coroutine gets suspended and control is passed back to the event loop. So event loop gets next task from Q2 and so on. This is how event loop will work. So it will take the no response and it will give it to you. This is how event loop will operate. This is how event loop will handle the coroutines here. So I'm going to pause here. If you have any questions still here, you can ask me. Any questions?
No questions, Girish.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, let's start with another slide. Okay, so the next slide is generators and synchronous generator. So here, generator is a special type of function which does not return a single value. Instead, it returns an iterator object with a sequence of values. In generator function, yield statement is used rather than a return statement. I know you all know about generators. So same things applies in asynchronous generator. Just we need to add async keyword before definition of generator. So you may actually are not able to find maximum difference between asynchronous generator and generator because it is actually no 2.3% faster than the normal generator. That's it. There may be an no there won't be a much difference actually. I'll show this generator and asynchronous generator also in live demo. Then quickly we'll jump into the coroutines. That is a main thing actually we need to discuss. So here, a coroutine is used for cooperative multitasking, where a process voluntarily yield control periodically or when ideally in order to enable multiple applications to run. So what it will give you is like when event loop is triggering a coroutine, so coroutine will go with the process. If it is taking more time to process that, so what it will do is coroutine will pass the control back to the event loop. Then event loop will can go and trigger the next task here. So there are some differences in coroutine here. Just initializing the definition. If it is in Python 3.4, we use it to have a decorator like async.coroutine. But when it comes to the Python 3.5, we have async and await keywords separately. So from here onwards, I'm going to show a live demonstration how we can use async and await keywords. So let me start with the live demonstration here. So I'm going to define a function here that is a random function which will give you one value between 1 to 10. So what I will do is I'm going to show you the timings between a synchronous process and asynchronous process. So what I'll do is I'll define a function that is a ran, and then dot sleep 3 seconds. This is, and then I'm returning a value that is random between 1 to 10. So let me define a one more function here, main. I'll call this function here like r1 equal to 10. And if I'm going to call this main function here, I'm sure this function will generate a random value, but for generating a random value, it has to wait for 3 seconds at least. So let me show you the timings. So start to start counter. And Okay, let me execute. I'm sure this will take 3 seconds to execute that function. Yeah, it took 3 seconds. So if I execute this random function 3 times, what will happen? It will take 9 seconds. I execute this function. I'm sure this will take 9 seconds here. So because I'm executing in a synchronous way, so I'm pretty much sure. Yeah, this has taken 9 seconds. So let me execute the same function in a synchronous process. So how much time it is going to take? Let's see. So for that, I need to import async library here. Okay. So one more function, generate and then loads. Okay. So for asynchronous process, instead of time.sleep, what I will do is I will use async io.sleep here, and I'm using the same 3 seconds here, and then I'm returning the values between 1 to 10. All execute. I'm sure this will give you the error. Oh, the first function is taking some time. Okay, I didn't call this function here. Okay, let me call. Oh, async AR1 equal to, yeah. Let me pass. Let me comment out this for a while. So let me execute. So that will give you an error because so I'm going to tell one thing here. So once you initialize with async IO, so automatically the compiler is taking this function as a coroutine. If you see here, coroutine sleep was never awaited. So this is a normal function, just I have used async IO here. So once you use this keyword, so automatically compiler will take it as that function as a coroutine. So what I will do is, it is never awaited. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll await for this. Okay, let me execute one more time. I'm sure that will also give you one error because await outside async function. So when you use await keyword within the function, you have to use async keyword here. So the function should be in asynchronous mode. So now let's execute this. So this will also give you one error because so I'm calling this function into the main function here. Okay, but the main function is not in asynchronous mode. So that's why we are getting this error. So let me define. Okay, sorry. And so it is what it is showing. Okay, coroutine generator values was never iterated. Okay, so when you are calling the function also, you have to wait here. Wait, sorry, wait, await, and you should not call this function directly. So await, there is a one more API to call this function. Let's gather, and I'll going to keep this generate values inside this gather. Okay, now let me call. Okay, now what it is showing, await outside async function. Now you have to define this function also in asynchronous mode. Now again you will get one more error because we are calling this main function here, and this will also show the same here. Now these two functions are coroutines. So as I said, when you are actually going with a coroutine, you need to have event loop. So what I will do is, I'm calling those functions. So this run is a event loop. I'm calling this main function inside this event loop. Now this will execute. Oh, wait. So this has generated one value. Okay. So it took 3 seconds or what? We have to find out the timings. So how much time it is taking. So when I executed in synchronous process, if I call 3 times, it has taken 9 seconds. So the same applies here. I'll do the same thing here. So how much time it is going to take? Let's see. So what I'll do is, I'll do the same thing here, and dot last. Yeah. So I need to call 3 times, right? So okay, values and generated values. So I'm calling 3 times the same function here, and I have to print the timing. So async function. Yeah. Now let me execute. How much time it is taking? Let's see. So the first function will take 9 seconds, obviously. Yeah, it took 9 seconds to complete that. So if you see the asynchronous function, it took 3 seconds only. Okay, I'll call 10 times. I don't want 3 times. Let's compare. Let's call 10 times here. So what I'll do? Okay. Uh, I'm calling this function 10 times here. So let's see how much time it is going to take. So obviously, first synchronous process took 9 seconds, then it took 3 seconds only. If you call 10 times also, it is taking 3 seconds only. So this is the difference between the synchronous process and asynchronous process. Okay, so you can actually improve your Python code performance when you are doing no when you are doing independent processes, when you are calling independent processes. So you can actually go with this asynchronous process. So this will give you a better performance. So I'm actually keeping these everything no into the final program. So I'm making an API call to the two websites. So I'm doing 80 times for one website, and 80 times with another website. So I'm actually no requesting 160 times. I'm calling 160 times. So this how much time it is going to take, we'll see in the final demo. So if you see the generator also, this one is a normal generator and this one is a asynchronous generator. Okay, so same I'm doing here. If you call the normal generator, and I'm just no generating odd values. and the square of odds in asynchronous. So how much time it is taking, you can actually see. Yeah. So this is the difference between asynchronous and no asynchronous generator and the generator. So let me show you the final program. This is a normal synchronous way of calling. So I'm requesting these two websites to give some response. Okay, and I'm requesting those two websites 80 times here. So so if you execute this program, how much time it is going to take, we'll see. Just bear for some time. So it is going in a sequential way. If you see here, so it is asking first website, no, and then it is going to the next website, then and so on. So one by one it is going. So how much time it is going to take, we'll see. So it took almost 36 seconds here. Let's execute the same program in asynchronous process. So for this, we need AIO HTTP also. You need to import this library as well to work with some network related things. And you don't need to worry about this event loop. So you can actually use run also here. So I'll show that version also here. So let me execute this asynchronous process. So how much time it is going to take? Let's see. Yeah. So it took only 2 seconds here. So let me go through the run. So this will also will give you the same. Yeah. There are so many APIs in asynchronous library. You can actually use those all APIs for event loop. Each one, each of API will have some specific functions. You can actually go through the that library later. I'll show you the reference as well. So the same way, here I'm doing a API call, and the same way I'm returning some data on Azure actually. So if you see this, I'm sending some messages. Okay, I'm sending some messages using uh, Event Hub. So let me execute this. Before that, I just wanted to show the Azure. Okay. Oh, let me go to the Azure storage. Yeah, the containers. Yes. Yes. So here we don't have anything here. So I'm just sending these messages, and the another side, what I'm doing is I'm receiving those messages and I'm storing those all messages in Azure storage. So where I'm storing is I have created one event hub, and I'm taking this Azure practice, and the event hub name is my event hub. Under this folder, we are going to see those all messages. Okay, I'm storing with the asynchronous process. Let me execute this process. Just bear with me for some time. It will take a few minutes. Mm, my event hub. Okay. Sorry. Let's start this. Applied offset. Okay. Should change here as well. Okay, this is taking some time. Okay, but I'm sure you can actually no store data as well. I need to fix this. Okay, so this is how asynchronous process will work. Okay, so that is a demo, and so finally, so uh, no finally what we can have this with this topic, like where we can use this async IO and asynchronous programming when you are using IO bound requests or CPU bound requests. We can actually use this one. The benefits of asynchronous process is fire and forget process. No, you can actually do this fire and forget process and independent data. The scaling and efficiency is also very well. Responsive UI is also very well. Responsive UI is in the sense, I can actually give one example. So your mobile app has no like if a mobile app has two buttons, button one gets a detailed weather forecast for 7 days. So let's say a request take 5 seconds to process, and button 2 changes the font color of the app. When a user selects button 1, UI must not freeze. The user must not no must be allowed the second no the select button 2, that is changing font color. While the app is fetching weather data in the background, there are two independent functionalities here. So in this case also you can use asynchronous process. Okay. So, and where we should not use this asynchronous process also, I can actually give some examples, just only few examples. So we should not go with the asynchronous process always. We have to know where we need to use this asynchronous process and where we should not use. So if you use unnecessarily, this asynchronous process also will not give you the better performance. So we should not use some no in some places like let's say microservice has very small CPU bound operations and is always bombarded with requests. Therefore, async IO is not needed there. And if service is calling a database that cannot scale, in this case making the code async won't help you, as the database will become a bottleneck. And also, if your application which has a very slow IO bound work but does not receive a lot of requests, I'm rephrasing my sentence, but it is not receiving a lot of requests and thus does not needed to scale. So here also, no, we should not use our asynchronous process. And one more thing, application has a lot of CPU bound work, but does not have any strict time SLA. Also, you don't need to worry about the no this thing. So in that case also, you don't need to use asynchronous process. So these are all the things we have to keep in our mind, where we have to use this asynchronous process and where we can use this where we should not use this asynchronous and where we can use this asynchronous. So that is the end of this. And here I have some references for this. So this will give you the actual asynchronous library. So here you can have all the APIs of asynchronous library. So just have to go through these all things. And here is some no theoretical part of asynchronous process. And this YouTube video will give you the interesting demo for this asynchronous process by David Beasley. So that's it, guys. So if you have any questions, you can raise your questions. I'll give best of my knowledge. I'll give the response. Any questions?
Yeah, hi Girish, this is Karthik here.
Yeah.
Very good presentation. Yeah, thank you. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
I have a quick question in terms of, so from a latent view perspective, we do multiple things, right? For example, we build models, we scrape from websites, right? We pull in data and load it to a database. So there are multiple types of activities that we do, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Out of that, where do you think this is most applicable? So for example, will this async IO will be useful in a model building kind of a process, or I think scraping websites, I think it'll be useful, I guess, the way you showed the demo. But can you just give me some idea of where it'll be useful and where it'll not be that pertinent?
No, I have tried to show the data engineering prospect also, but somewhere in the creation of Event Hub, I have created wrongly, so that's why that program is not executing. So we can actually use this in data modeling as well. Let's say we have some 10 to 11 sources that are continuously sending data into the data lake storage, or you want to store the data into the S3 or Azure storage. So you can continuously collect that from all the sources, and you can keep on storing the data. So this way also we can use.
Okay, so any streaming use case we can use async IO.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anything on model building machine learning models and things like that? Do you have any idea whether, have you heard of any use cases where it is useful?
I'm actually not having in machine learning and model building.
Okay. Okay.
If you want, I'll quickly iterate on those things as well. I'll send in a separate mail.
Yeah, just check on that if it can be used in a model, especially when we build large models. So one problem that we are having in one project is it takes a lot of time to build that time series model itself, right?
Yes.
And is there any way that, and it's all parallelizable, because I can look at specific agents and specific corridors in that project and actually parallelize all the activities. Okay. But the problem is when we run it at one shot, it is taking whatever 15 hours, 16 hours kind of a time frame.
Yes.
So I just wanted to check whether something like an async IO would be useful, where we parallelize the threads, and can we do it much faster, right? So if you can give us any information on that, that'll be useful.
Yeah, sure, Karthik. I'll investigate on that and I'll give you as much.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Girish.
Yeah. Thanks, Karthik. Any questions, guys? If you don't have any questions, we can wind up this session. Yeah. Okay.
Girish, this is Aishwarya. I just have one question.
Yeah,
so,
Aishwarya.
What I understood is it can be used for streaming processes, right? So
Yes.
more or less, is it similar to Kafka kind of thing? Because in Kafka, we also do the similar thing, right? And streaming data mostly we use in Kafka. And
Yes.
there will be multiple consumers, and you have a broker and a producer which produces the data, and the consumers will continuously consume the data, and you'll have a retention period. So is it more or less similar to that? Because I find it more similar, just asking.
Yes, it's more than that. Why? Because when you are doing some stuff with the help of Kafka, you need to have a worry about how to store this these all things in storage. I mean, if it is a S3 or Azure storage. But if you go with this process, you don't need to worry about the storage. I mean, especially when you are storing in Azure storage, you don't need to worry about it. That is what I have shown in with the help of Event Hubs. So Event Hub is doing that process actually.
Okay.
Okay, so my program is like that actually. So Event Hub is doing that process. So what asynchronous process is doing is it is collecting the independent processes. That's it. It is sending the independent processes.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks as well. Okay, guys. Any questions? Yeah. So we can wind up this session. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Girish. It was a very nice session. Thank you.